Good Friday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, I will be tracking the record smashing cold blast across the northeastern United States this weekend, followed by a big warm up next week. How warm will temperatures soar? I'll have those answers in this video, as well as a major storm system next week bringing more heavy snow and heavy rainfall as well across parts of the country. Looking out here this morning, we have finally got rid of the winter weather advisories, the winter storm warnings, and those ice storm warnings across the southern plains and the mid-Mississippi Valley. And what we are left with here through the day today is some rain showers down across the immediate southeast, across North Florida, getting into coastal Georgia here through the noon time frame. But you look across the country and we don't see much because we have a high pressure system that is dominating the middle of the country through the day today. That will continue as we head into this evening, and really any precipitation of note will be up here into Washington State or even parts of Oregon and into northern Idaho here, and this will actually be light precipitation through this evening. But if you guys are with me on this video, don't forget to press the subscribe button down below and the like button, it's that thumbs up button down below the video. It definitely helps to get more and more of this weather information out to more people on YouTube, so I definitely appreciate it. But looking here this weekend, we got an extreme cold blast. This is the polar vortex moving southeast across southeastern Canada and the northeast here this weekend on Saturday, February 4th. And look at the temperatures as we head through this afternoon. You can see as this starts to move in, we have those negative high temperatures up here into the upper Midwest, the upper Great Lakes, and much of interior New England, even colder temperatures farther to the north into Ontario and Quebec, Canada here this afternoon. Those high temperatures will be 25 degrees below zero. And when you factor in the wind out there, those wind chill values will be well below zero up here across portions of the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, and parts of New England. This afternoon, we got 25 degrees below zero onto the U.S. side of things for wind chills later this afternoon. But on the Canadian side, here into Ontario and Quebec, we're talking 50 degrees below zero, if not closing in on 60 below for wind chills this afternoon across portions of Quebec, Canada. But looking up here across the Northeast, going into your Saturday morning, tomorrow morning, these are your low temperatures waking up, going out the door on Saturday. And we see 30 degrees below zero here across Maine, getting into Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, and even parts of Massachusetts. Down here toward New York City, you could be down to around 0 degrees starting off the day on Saturday. And when you factor in the wind, again, we'll have those wind chill values dropping back to 40, if not 50 degrees below zero across a widespread area here across Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, much of Ontario, Canada here. And we're also going to be talking about a lot of 30-degree below zero temperatures and wind chills down into Boston, and then even 10 to 15 below wind chills along Long Island here, getting up into Connecticut as we move through Saturday morning. We only muster the teens below zero for highs across portions of Maine, northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, and upstate New York as we go into Saturday afternoon. That's all we warm up to, and you can see going even into the afternoon on Saturday, we still have those 20 to 30, even 40 degree below zero wind chills up here into Maine and much of southeastern Canada. So it is going to be very cold, guys. Definitely bundle up, and with this extreme cold, you want to dress in plenty of layers. We're talking 3 layers or more, an insulating coat here like a winter coat. You want to have your snow boots on, your pants and scarves and all that stuff to keep all of the exposed skin covered, because frostbite can set in under 10 minutes in a lot of this extreme 40, 50, and 60 below wind chill type of environments. And yes, do not forget about your pets. I know, a lot of the pets here go outside and have fun outside here during the winter time as well, but we definitely want to remember that their paws can get cold just like our hands can and our feet can as well. So you definitely want to make sure that you have them bundled up as well and moved inside here, especially with it being that cold outdoors. But going through this weekend, we're not seeing a lot of precipitation with the cold weather. We're seeing a lot of lake effect snow with maybe a few inches up here and toward the upper Great Lakes, but other than that, we're not seeing any snowstorms or anything like that across the Northeast. So it's just going to be very cold. But as we go into late this weekend and more so into next week, we start to turn around these temperatures. We have a big warm up starting as we get into Sunday, February 5th, and that really extends into early next week. And by the time we get into Monday, February 6th, we'll see temperatures surging across southern Canada and the center of the country, a good 15 to 20 degrees above average for that time of year. And you can see Sunday afternoon, these are your high temperatures, and we'll be warming back up into the 40s and 50s up here across the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and then even warmer 60s and 70s across much of New Mexico, Texas, and the central Gulf Coast states. That does include Florida, and even going into Monday, much of the same. We'll start to push a lot of these 50s and 60s farther north and east going through early next week, and that even extends into Tuesday as well. But with that transition comes another storm system. We have another trough digging in across the west coast going into that Sunday, February 5th time frame, and that will push across the Four Corners region and eventually into West Texas going into Monday, February 6th, early next week. And you can see this will be dropping some heavier snow across the higher elevations of the west on Sunday, maybe some heavier coastal rains across California into southwestern Oregon there on Sunday afternoon. And then as we go through Monday, a lot of the snowfall will be stretching farther east into Wyoming, the front range of the Rockies, and back towards Salt Lake City here as we head in towards that Monday, February 6th time frame. This system will be dropping some rain across the west. There will be some beneficial rains. Again, we're still in drought across these areas, so any rain we can get will be good news. And it does look like we see at least a few inches of rain here in some of these spots, especially into coastal California and the western portions of Oregon and Washington State. Even some heavier rains up here into western British Columbia, Canada as well from Saturday through early next week. So definitely some good news there. Also, this will be a heavy snow machine as well across the west with those ski resorts getting plenty of snow out here through early next week. We're talking some heavy snow in the Sierra Nevadas and the higher elevations even into British Columbia here. Across the Pacific Northwest, yeah, a few inches of heavy snow up here into Idaho, Oregon, Washington State, maybe a couple areas getting over a foot of snow. The northern Sierra Nevadas could be getting over a foot of snow in some of these areas. Salt Lake City, you guys could see those higher elevations getting 6 to 8 inches through early next week. And farther south across portions of the Sierra Nevada mountains in California, yeah, we could be talking about 12, 18, even 24 inches worth of snow in some of these areas going through early next week. So some beneficial snows across these areas. But as this trough moves east, it's going to spell more trouble across the southern plains and the eastern 2/3 of the country going towards the middle of next week with that positively tilted trough. It does look like we still have the warmth ahead of the system, so there's not a lot of cold air to work with. So we're not looking at a major winter storm or anything like that. Most of this will be falling as rainfall, and that will continue even into Wednesday, February 8th, again, with a lot of this warmer air preceding the storm system. We also have to worry about those dew points as well. The Gulf of Mexico will be open for business going into the early and middle portion of next week. Dew points will be rising back into the 50s, if not the low to mid 60s down here across the Arklatex and the central Gulf Coast states, especially as we get into Wednesday. And you can see starting at noon time frame on Tuesday, that system starts to move off across the front range of the Rockies and into the southern plains. We're going to see widespread rain across portions of the Oklahoma City area, getting into Tulsa, and then farther south along the I-20 corridor into eastern Texas, and then a stripe of rain up here across the Ohio Valley. That will continue into Wednesday morning with that low centered across the Arklatex region. We have that cold front moving down across southern Arkansas, East Texas, and western Louisiana. A scattered broken line of storms will be moving through the morning hours on Wednesday. And then by the time we get through Wednesday afternoon and into Wednesday evening, this does concern me. We might have a squall line of showers and storms moving across the mid-Mississippi Valley on southward toward the Gulf Coast here toward New Orleans, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, and even over here into Alabama. And we do have a lot of bulk shear values from the surface on up into the mid-levels here, rounding the base of this trough, and pretty strong as well going into Wednesday evening. So we'll have to watch for the threat of damaging winds large hail, and yes, maybe a couple of tornadoes. And then that'll spread up across the Ohio Valley and the southeast going into the day on Thursday. And then finally exiting across the northeast as we get into Friday. There could be some colder air across southeastern Canada that could be bringing us some heavier snow up here into Quebec, Canada, and maybe northern Maine with a few inches of snow. But for the most part, we're not talking about a big snowmaker with this system. It's going to be mainly rain for most of us across the United States. So again, like I was saying, not a lot of snow, not a big snowstorm next week. Again, we could be talking about a dusting to maybe a couple of inches of snow on the northwest side of the system, from the Central Plains back here near Kansas City on up there toward Green Bay, and then the heavier snow across southern and southeastern Canada. As it starts to move in toward the colder air, we'll see a few more inches of snow up here toward portions of Montreal, getting into northern portions of Maine through next Friday. But it's going to be producing a lot more heavy rain, not only across the west, but across the eastern 2/3 of the country. And again, a lot of these areas will be seeing repeated rounds of rain with multiple rounds of thunderstorms as this cold front moves through from portions of the Ohio Valley southward toward the central Gulf Coast states through next Friday. And we do have to worry ourselves about at least a marginal threat for flash flooding across portions of northern and eastern Texas, getting into southeastern Oklahoma, west central portions of Arkansas, and northwestern Louisiana, at least during the middle portion of next week. So definitely be mindful of that. But beyond there, as we get into the second, third week now in February, toward the middle of the month, we still have those above normal temperatures hanging tough across the eastern 2/3 of the country. We got those troughs and multiple storm systems moving in across the west, so we have below normal temperatures really centered on portions of California and the Pacific West. And you do see an active storm track from the southern plains and portions of the desert Southwest on up through the mid-Mississippi Valley and the Great Lakes during the middle of the month. And that is some good news because it's moving right over the areas that definitely need the rain. We see those severe and extreme, even exceptional drought areas persisting across especially the Central Plains, and that is some good news. We'll start to get more moisture in these areas toward the middle of the month. And it does look like we're going to see a strong subtropical jet getting in towards the following week there on Tuesday the 14th, and that will promote more storm systems, kind of like a traffic zone for storms moving through next week. And it does look like preceding this storm as well, we'll still see a lot of the warmer air showing up. A lot of these blues, purples, and pinks are well up into Canada, so we're not really seeing the deep cold air even as we get toward the middle of the month. And you can see that persisting toward the 14th, even 15th time frame with a lot of these yellows and oranges showing up. We're just not seeing a lot of cold air with these storm tracks. So by the time we get into the February 10th through the February 16th time frame, I do think we'll have a lot of these low pressure systems more southern stream dominated. They'll start across portions of West Texas into the southern plains, and then they'll move up toward the Ohio Valley and toward the southeastern Canada. And on the southeast side of these lows, we have to watch for those dew points rising, those temperatures rising, and the southern side of these troughs could be swinging across, bringing severe weather across portions of the central Gulf Coast states on up into the Carolinas and the Tennessee Valley at times, and then some heavier rain across portions of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, and then a cold rain across portions there of western Great Lakes down through the Illinois, Missouri Valley and the southern plains, with the snow a lot farther displaced off to the northern plains, the upper Midwest here into Minnesota, and then farther back southwestward into the central Rockies as we get toward the middle of the month, with that colder air a lot farther to the north and west, and the warmer air hanging tough across the eastern 2/3 of the country. Well, again, to recap my weather forecast for you today, a record-smashing cold blast is on the way across the northeast U.S. this weekend. A big warm-up will be moving in next week. Temperatures warming up well above average, and then a major storm system next week with heavy snow potentially, especially into southeastern Canada, and then heavy rain for most of us across the eastern 2/3 of the country. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. If you guys liked the video, press the thumbs up down below the video as well, and leave any comments, questions, and concerns. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great Friday, everybody, a great weekend ahead, and I will see you all in the next video.